Shortly after, an Egyptian soldier infiltrated the border between Egypt and Israel, killing 3 Israeli soldiers and wounding a 4th. The Egyptian military issued a statement. The statement explained what has happened as a regular occurrence in which an Egyptian soldier was chasing after a group of drug smugglers, and that resulted in the killing of the Israelis. It doesn't really add up. But what is so clear is that the Egyptian military does not want to condemn its own soldier. Now, if this event has happened years ago at the height of the normalization between the Arabs and Israel, and at the height of American intervention in that region, I think the position of Egypt would have been different. The reason that the Egyptians have decided to find this kind of middle ground in which they are not taking full responsibility for the soldiers actually killing Israelis is something that's really worth pondering. In fact, there is more than one reason. Number one, the war on Gaza by Israel last May. When Israel attacked Gaza, killing and wounding hundreds of Palestinians, that was done in violation of a truce agreement that was mediated by Egypt. That created a major embarrassment for Egypt among Palestinians, but also among Arab countries, because Egypt was seen as, the kind of the middle ground in Arab politics between the Palestinians and Israel. And that middle ground was violated in the nastiest possible way by Netanyahu. In fact, when the Israeli Prime Minister decided to attack Gaza for his own political calculations, after the matter he informed Egypt, by the way, we are attacking Gaza, as if the Egyptians did not know that already, since it was all over the TV screens. That created a problem for Egypt. The credibility of Cairo was on the line. But there are other reasons. One is that, aside from the fact that Egypt is now trying to regain the credibility among Palestinians by inviting Ismail Haniyeh and the other leaders of Hamas and the Islamic Jihad into Cairo for meetings with top Egyptian officials, there is a new kind of thinking that is happening in the Middle East, geopolitical thinking, that is. The US is seen as less and less relevant in terms of conflict resolution. Not that Washington ever resolved any conflict. In fact, they contributed to more and more conflicts. But China, in particular, has been kind of assuming a new role that was crowned with the agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia in April. That agreement indicated that China is not just talk only, but they are ready to take on the actual responsibility of being the mediator between the various conflicting parties in the Middle East. Now, Syria is back into the Arab League. The Iranians and the Saudis are talking to each other, and they have exchanged diplomats and ambassadors. And also Iran, the United Arab Emirates, the Saudis, and others are joining in a new sort of a naval alliance in the Gulf to protect that region from further instability and to ensure the continuity of the trade lanes in the Gulf waters. All of these things indicate that Egypt does not necessarily, like other Arab countries, look at Washington for approval and validation all the time. I mean, remember that border area between Egypt and Israel, it was fortified with American money. Took them several years to build this massive wall. I think it's about over 200 kilometers wide. And the main suspects of those who could possibly attack Israel was, of course, the militants of the Sinai region, but also Palestinian resistance groups. The attack is now being carried by Egyptian military personnel. True, the statement did not name the attacker a martyr, although many Egyptian bloggers were not happy about that, and they insist on calling him a martyr and a hero. But they did not take any responsibility for it. They said it was just a drug bust operation. It was just business as usual, and we lost one of our soldiers. And they issued that statement with zero consultation with Israel whatsoever. Now the Israelis are very upset. Danny Danon, who used to be the former Israeli ambassador at the United Nations and now is an important member of Netanyahu's Likud party, he said, "This is shameful. This is shameful." He is referring to the statement made by the Egyptian military, explaining what has actually happened on that day. Now, he doesn't have an official capacity anymore. Netanyahu described the operation as terrorist and dangerous, but he emphasized the important relationship that Israel has with Egypt. It's a very important relationship because Israel cannot afford opening yet another war front. We are talking about an area that is over 200 kilometers. It has a border of over 200 kilometers between Egypt and Israel. And now, since Israel has already bogged itself down in trying to ensure the success of the siege on Gaza and crushing the armed resistance in the West Bank and the new fronts that are opening from Lebanon and even Syria, they cannot afford losing their sense of security at the Sinai border. So they are furious by the Egyptian response, but they cannot express that in language that could be seen by the Egyptians as undiplomatic. For more information on this story, make sure you visit PalestineChronicle.com. Thank you for listening.